It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. I'm over here at the Extreme Fight Lab because we're extreme scientists in this laboratory. Today we're going to talk about the BJJ belt Gauntlet. Some of you know what that is, some of you don't. Some Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu schools do it. Not all, not even most, believe it or not, even though it's a fairly widespread tradition. But did you know it started as a joke? But first, what is it for those of you who don't know what the belt gauntlet is? Well, in some jiu-jitsu schools, when a student is promoted from one belt rank to the next, they'll have all the students line up in two lines like a corridor. They'll take off their belts. The promoted student will walk down this gauntlet of people, and the people on either side will whip them in the back with their belts. And some people think it's fun or funny. Some people think it's cruel and mean and needs to end. Some people just simply, I would say most people, just simply tolerate it because it's a tradition. It's not that old of a tradition, though. Who started this? Fabio Gurgel. Probably mispronouncing his last name. Apologies if I am to this Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu legend. But he came out a couple of years ago and he said that he wished he hadn't started the tradition of the belt gauntlet. Yeah, he's the guy who started this tradition, and he did it as a joke. So BJJ Eastern Europe put out a joke video about this, and it got some traction on Instagram. Let's take a look at it, see what the joke is. Point of view, belt promotions in the past, dude's walking the gauntlet. He's like, yeah, I'm a man, looking all tough, okay? They're whipping him, typical thing, people are cheering. Point of view, promotion in the present, some happy K-pop music playing, they're handing him flowers, they're smiling, everyone is looking a little bit more effeminate, they're giving him potted plants and hugs and smiles, it's all happy and friendly and kumbaya. The implication apparently that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu gyms are getting soft because they're eschewing the tradition of the gauntlet. So I looked at some of the comments and people said exactly this, like, yeah, Jiu-Jitsu's getting soft, man. We train to break limbs, how to strangle and choke a human to death, to cause discomfort and pain, throw people to the ground, and yet some people don't want to be slapped by a length of cloth. I've experienced the gauntlet 3 times. I loved every second, says a certain Jiu-Jitsu practitioner who commented on this, and a lot of other such comments from people echoing the sentiment of the video. Now, I left a comment, which was, you know the belt gauntlet was started as a joke, right? That's a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question because BJJ Eastern Europe last year posted an article, an interview with Fabio Gurgel, the guy who started this tradition, explaining that he wished he hadn't have started this inside joke that got out of control. And he thinks it's dumb, and he wishes it would end. So, I got a reply from BJJ Eastern Europe that said, how so? You know the belt gauntlet is a joke, right? How so? My reply, perhaps this article from your website will answer that question. And I linked them to an article on their own website answering their question. So, obviously it's not the same people posting every post on this thing. I should hope not anyway. Otherwise we gotta disconnect. But what was more interesting was some of the feedback here. Some people were very angry at my reply, posting the link to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Eastern Europe's own article. Frigo Lam JM1 says, Ramsey Dewey, so you asked that question knowing beforehand that you were going to redirect it back to their own site. Don't be a jerk, Kay. It's called a rhetorical question, my friend. When we say something along the lines of, in modern English parlance, you know that's a joke, right? I'm not expecting you to search your feelings and your entire library of knowledge to ascertain whether or not that really is a joke. That's a rhetorical question. Yes, of course it's a joke when we say, you know that's a joke, right? It's funny when we have to explain literary devices to people, but we have to because it's the internet. And then we got some laughs. Some laughs. People think it's kind of funny. It's kind of funny that BJJ Eastern Europe forgot the article that they had posted. Forgot that this was supposed to be intended as a joke in the first place, and joking about jokes isn't actually funny. You can do a parody of something serious. You can't do a parody of a comedy. It doesn't work. It's dumb. It's dumber than the BJJ Gauntlet. So I got another reply from Carlos JC93, who says, "This Ramsey Dewey guy clearly hasn't done anything violent. You know, in the Marine Corps, we have a similar gauntlet for our NCO blood stripes, the red line on our dress uniforms. It ain't hazing unless you can't take it. No joke, respect, and camaraderie." Okay, interesting. Got a little jab at me. And this is interesting because if you read some of his further comments, he does this thing that some people do, which fortunately has not been my experience with most members of the armed services of the United States of America. Most of them are pretty stand-up guys in my experience, a lot of friends who have served. But some guys with a chip on their shoulder like to do this thing where they're like, I did this thing, I have this experience, and I am the purveyor of violence, I am the gatekeeper of whatever the heck this situation is that I've established in my mind, and you must respect me. So essentially he's demanding some respect with these comments. Anyway, people continue to laugh at the absurdity of this situation because it is absurd. Carlos comes back and he says, "Ramsey Dewey, before you go pulling up another article about how someone wrote their feelings were hurt by going through a gauntlet." Look, it was an article about how the Jiu-Jitsu Gauntlet started as a joke. That's what it says. It's not about hurt feelings. It started as a joke. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about jokes, friend. Not everybody understands jokes. Not everybody gets it. This guy doesn't get it. It's for people who are hardened and meet these overcoming of obstacles with one last challenge so that you don't get soft. Getting slapped with a little piece of cloth is a challenge. That's somehow more challenging than, say, I don't know, sparring or rolling or a warm-up in a jiu-jitsu class. If we don't get slapped with a piece of cloth, we're gonna go soft. Bros, we're gonna go soft. We can't have that. The absurdity of this is precious, man. So we've got to do this or we'll go soft, man. But if you soft already, hey, I won't hurt you. Promise, little one. This guy's like young enough to be my grandson. I'm not even joking about that. He's calling me little one. Because we are talking about a celebratory walk through your peers, not gain initiation. Jerk with the websites. How dare you post a website link as proof of what you are saying when asked for proof of what you are saying? Because I said it started as a joke. BJJ Eastern Europe wants to know, what's your source on that? You, my friends, you are the source. Let's read the article. Let's read the actual article. So here's what is written on BJJ Eastern Europe. Fabio Gurgel, the Gauntlet was my biggest mistake as an instructor. That's the headline. Running the Gauntlet is a tradition that more and more academies abandon every day. Most modern academies abandon it because it's a legal liability, and to put it bluntly, it's bad for business in a world where you can get a 2-stripe brown belt level over the internet. I think that's a reference to the old Gracie University format. They don't do that anymore, but that used to be the format. Look it up. Look into it, friends. Many Jiu-Jiteros call this torturous procedure a rite of passage. Getting slapped with a piece of glass. Torturous procedure. And believe that it creates a unified team front. Fabio Gurgel is one of the 3 founders of the Alliance team, 12-time world team champions, along with Alexandre Paiva and Master Romero Jacquard. If you don't know who this dude is, Fabio, he was like 4-time world Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu champion. He was like one of the best competitors of his era. He was a coach of guys like Marcelo Garcia. Man, one of the all-time greats. So, yeah, man, he's a legend in the sport. Gurgel is one of many BJJ instructors that is now against the Gauntlet, even though he used to do it back in the days. He expressed his opinion on his blog, translated from Portuguese. Perhaps my biggest mistake, and that must have cost me hundreds of students, was the Gauntlet. It all started as a joke in my gym at the Federal Club where I began teaching classes alone in 1988. My master's gym did not have this custom. I'm not sure where I got this terrible idea, but the fact is that I used it for a long time, and it has spread in Jiu-Jitsu at a frightening speed. Possibly other teachers like me started on their own, and maybe, as many others, I have somehow influenced. To those, I ask my sincere apologies. However, the fact is that this ritual became part of the Jiu-Jitsu Academy's environment. The students endured it, and even liked it, because it seemed like a test, like the ones we see in war movies where military barracks prepare their soldiers to face the difficulties that are to come. The students felt worthy of that new belt for having endured that beating, so that in the end had no purpose. Time passed, and Jiu-Jitsu academies turned increasingly to the competition and always prioritized the participation of tough students, felt no need to change the promotion party. After all, being tough was almost a must. And what was a simple beating for a guy accustomed to suffering in What's a simple beating for a guy accustomed to suffering in Jiu-Jitsu training for competition? One fine day, I had an experience that made me rethink everything in this respect. I had been studying, and every day more understanding that we were moving away from what Jiu-Jitsu needed in terms of offering Jiu-Jitsu for everyone, and not just for the class, but at a promotion party we had the presence of the mother of a student who would be promoted on that day. She was at the beginning all proud, probably expecting a glamorous ceremony, as it should be, when suddenly the Gauntlet was formed. Shouts of, he's gonna die, were chanted by all of the almost 100 students who were on the mat. And there was the kid going through that insanity. His mother was terrified and told his father that they should report it in a police station. Apparently they were hitting him pretty hard. Not just light little taps with the strap of fabric that we sometimes see, like a little ceremonial beating rather than an actual beating. The father was torn between the pride of seeing his son win the situation and conquer the dreamed belt, and the one of calming the mother. The son was promoted, and his happiness caused that the mother gave up to launching a complaint and only accepted to congratulate the son. But that, for me, was the straw and the proof that something very wrong was happening, and that it was necessary to change. Never again did I allow this to happen in my gym, but now the test is not resistance, but technical. The belt exams have taken the place of the Gauntlet, and the result is arguably better. My students are submitted to a fair test, which confronts them with what really matters if my school is managing to teach them a good Jiu-Jitsu curriculum. This change has not happened in isolation, and therefore I cannot attribute the growth of my academy to her alone. I've already told you about some changes that I have implemented in my school and that altogether produce the result I have today, but I have a certainty that the Gauntlet should be abolished from all Jiu-Jitsu schools in the world. So, that's the quote, man. The guy who started this tradition thinks it's dumb, thinks it's bad, thinks it's harmful, thinks it's bad for business, and needs to stop. Now, I understand some people think it's fun, and they like it, and they actually want to do it. Okay, cool, great, good for you. As somebody who is in the business of teaching martial arts, teaching Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, teaching mixed martial arts, MMA, it's already an uphill battle getting people to come to the gym, especially in a country like this where I essentially had to start this industry from scratch. Yeah, I opened up the first MMA gym in this city, and getting people to come was like pulling teeth. So I understand that, and I'm not saying we need to make it soft. It's not soft. It's like pulling teeth because martial arts training is hard. Getting out there and training consistently is hard. Even if you're not getting hurt and taking damage, it's difficult. And convincing people to pay you so that they can spend their free time doing something difficult is really hard. So anything that gets in the way of that can shut down a gym. If your gym's not making money, it's going to close. It's done. It's over. I've seen it happen so many times. Great gyms with great teams and great coaches can fold like that if your business acumen is not up to snuff, or you're just not lucky enough. Or, I don't know, a pandemic sweeps the world and you're forced to shut down for half of the year, and then you can't afford to reopen. Ever heard of that happening? Yeah, man. So it's very important to pay attention to these sorts of things, man. What do I think? I personally think the belt gauntlet is dumb. I've done it a couple of times, not every time. When I got promoted to blue belt, what did I do? I had to spar with a bunch of dudes, and after I sparred with all these dudes, I got the belt. There was no whipping. I had to do something much, much harder. When I got the purple belt, I had two instructors, Saulo and Guy, two dudes from Brazil, great black belts, nice guys I respect a lot. And Saulo gave this speech about how we're not going to do the gauntlet because that's not representative of my jiu-jitsu and the type of environment that I want to foster here. Because the belt promotion should be about how good your jiu-jitsu is, not about some joke. We should be serious here. Saulo is very serious guy. Everybody needs to wear the same type of uniform, right? Everybody wears a white gi. Everybody lines up. Everything's just so, right? Saulo was gone the next week. And Guy, he's a different mindset. He's like, okay, now that Saulo's gone, all you guys who got promoted, we're going to whip you now. Okay. When I got the brown belt, just got the brown belt after rolling with everybody. No whipping, no jokes. It was just a belt promotion. And I think that's better. I really think that's better. Roll with everybody. That's fun to me. That's what jiu-jitsu is about. It's about doing jiu-jitsu, not about doing something completely separate from jiu-jitsu. And the only real connection it has to jiu-jitsu is that this jiu-jitsu legend started it as a joke and has since disavowed it and tells us, hey, maybe don't do that anymore because it's not good for your business. It's not good for the environment that I want to foster. It's silly, it's dumb, and it can get out of hand sometimes. You can't be soft and earn, not receive, but earn any belt rank in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. If you earn a blue belt, a purple belt, a brown belt, a black belt, a stripe on a white belt, if you earn that, you did it the hard way. by doing jiu-jitsu. You know, the only thing we really should be doing at a jiu-jitsu class. There are lots of memes about warm-ups in jiu-jitsu. I saw one recently showing some guys doing some crazy gymnastics moves all over the place, and the caption said, jiu-jitsu coaches making their students do everything in the warm-ups except for what they are uniquely qualified to teach. That being jiu-jitsu. If your warm-up isn't relevant to jiu-jitsu, why are you doing it, man? If it doesn't help you to be better at jiu-jitsu, why are you doing it? Everything you do at a jiu-jitsu gym should funnel toward being better at jiu-jitsu. And if it's not, why are you doing it? We get so fixated on traditions, even if they're not that old. Like, this tradition dates all the way back to the 80s, the 1980s, 1988, I think he said. But we're so dogmatic, if the generation before us did it, we feel we have to do it too. If our instructor did it, we feel like we have to do it too. You know what that is? That's a traditional martial art. Where we don't question it, we just do it. Where we don't ask that important question, does this make me better at this martial art? And if the answer is no, we should do something that does. And if the answer is yes, then great, keep doing it. And this is a trap many, many different traditional martial arts have fallen into, of just monkey see, monkey do. I'm doing this thing because my instructor before me did it, and his instructor before him, he did it too, and now I'm going to do it even though it's dumb and it doesn't help you be better at karate or taekwondo or tong sudo or judo or whatever the heck your traditional martial art is. But we're going to do it because, as far as I can remember, it's always been done since 1988. And I would feel incomplete. It would feel wrong doing it differently. Think outside of the box. Think for yourself for a minute. I got a comment today about blocks. You know, middle block, high block, low block. We see these in karate and taekwondo. And this guy was very angry at his taekwondo training because he spent like 5 years training in taekwondo, and then he had a sparring session or a fight, something like that, with a Muay Thai practitioner, and he tried to block kicks with the low block. And one of the great disservices of gross mistranslations of uke, that Japanese word that is misinterpreted as block, it means receive. And if you try to hiya, swat a kick out of the way with a low block, you're going to get kicked. If you try to block a punch with an inside middle block, you're going to get punched, because that's not what they're for. They're not actually blocks. They're great for stripping grips. They're awesome for stripping and reversing grips. They work really well for that. Exactly as done in the form, right? If you follow that tradition and understand the purpose behind it, great. But how many people do? Not too many, I've noticed. Not too many. So we have it from the horse's mouth. This tradition started in 1988 as a joke, and one more time, the guy who started it, the guy that you're supposedly following because you respect the tradition, said, hey, cut it out. Stop. Don't do it anymore. It's dumb. Chew on that for a minute. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.